Welcome back to the vlog. It is now Monday. Obviously we're not at the studio today. We're going to be doing something a little different to start. We have a bunch of art that has to be installed for this one project, so that's what we're doing early this morning. These are the cubbies that the art needs to get installed into. They run up all over the wall. So we ran into a small problem installing one of the art pieces. One of the cubbies was built too small, and so one of the art pieces doesn't actually fit. So now we have to cut down one of the art pieces just a little bit. That way it will actually fit in the cubby it was supposed to be in. Luckily, the place we're installing is close to the glass blowing studio that I work at, so I can grind this piece down on the flat lap that they have inside. We also have some pads here that we can use to grind the glass. So let's get to work. All right, the piece has been adjusted, so now we can go back and install it. We're now back at the studio. Currently, I'm packing up that gold pyramid that we had made like a couple weeks ago. I'm going to be sending this piece out to a gallery in Sedona, so I'm excited to see how it does there. After we're done packing and shipping out the art, we're going to move on to a new project. Piece is all packed and I just got it sent out, and when I got back I realized I'd forgotten to do a bit of video editing that I'd fallen behind on. So we're not going to start any new projects today. I'm just going to wrap everything up a little early tonight, which means we're going to have to start up on a new project tomorrow. Alright, it is now Tuesday. First thing we have to do is check on the art piece that we had started a few weeks ago. For those of you that remember, we made these 3 glass rings and then we melted the glass together in a kiln. So a couple weeks ago we had melted a bunch of glass together, and you can see this here is the result. Now these washers here kind of scaled a little bit and some of the dirt got in here, but the glass itself is actually fine. We're going to start by taking this glass out of the kiln and getting it all clean. And then once the glass is all clean, we can begin to cold work it. So we're having a little bit of trouble with the blue one, trying to get that out of the ring. So I took it, put it in the kiln like this. I'm gonna raise the temperature up to 200 degrees and hopefully the metal will expand and I can pull the ring out. In the meantime, we're gonna work on the other 2 pieces that we managed to pull out of those rings. So I just came outside to check to see if the kiln is up to temperature, and it's at 200 degrees. So I'm gonna open this thing up and we're gonna try and remove the metal ring around the glass. Obviously that really didn't go according to plan. I think the glass is actually stuck to the metal, which probably happened when I melted it initially. At this point I'm going to let it cool down, then we're going to have to break it out of the actual ring. And then I'm going to have to decide if I want to make a separate piece out of it, completely different than what I had planned, or if I want to redo the mold, remelt it all together, and try again. Now it's cooled down so I can touch it with my bare hand. As you can see, it broke apart in 2 spots at least. In hindsight, I should have at least put 2 layers of kiln cloth. I only put 1. So on our next attempt, I'm doing at least 2 layers of this on both sides. At this point, all we can really do is try and knock it out of the frame and hopefully have something that we can salvage. these here are the shattered remains of that ring. We're gonna get this cleaned off and see if we can salvage it. So these here are the shattered remains of that ring. We can definitely still use this kind of crescent here. I'm not too sure about these, but I think we can figure something out with these. In the meantime, we actually have another project that we have to get started on as well. The project that we're gonna be focusing on for the rest of the night is this infinity sculpture right here. We glued this thing up a couple weeks ago, and now it's time to actually start cold working it. Now the idea with this piece is that it's going to be standing upright like this. This part here on the bottom is gonna be flat, and this here is gonna have a nice smooth taper. So let's head over to the flat lap and we'll begin working. This here is the current progress on the piece. It's coming along well. Now I'm gonna wrap everything up here for tonight, but tomorrow we're gonna pick back up on that piece there or on the outlines. I haven't decided yet. We are back and we're gonna start today by working on the infinity sculpture. I wanna get both of these sides smoothened up, and then we're gonna put this in the reciprolap. After that, we're gonna get back to work on the outlines. Unfortunately, this here got a little chipped because I put it in the reciprolap and it snuck under the hose, a little circular hose thing. Unfortunately, it hit the brim of the pan. Not a big deal though, we're just gonna go ahead and taper it down slightly more, that way it gets rid of it. And while we're at it, we're gonna go ahead and add the bottom to it as well. We have upgrades. I went ahead and glued on these two pieces of glass that'll protect the corners and the bottom edge. It will also stop the hose from being lifted up. So I've been watching the piece for about 20 minutes now and everything seems good. Now we're gonna get to work on the outlines. So this is what we have to work with. I've been playing around with different designs off camera, and I'm gonna show you what I think I wanna do. The idea for this piece is to take this big chunk here that survived. I wanna have it sort of displayed kind of like this, like a C. So you have the base here, this will be the base. This here will be a big crescent, maybe kind of pull it in like that. And then I wanna use this piece here, kind of sit. And the colors work really well with each other, so I think this would make a very interesting sculpture. So the first thing we need to do in order to make this piece is to work on the base. As you can see, this has a lot of texture to it. It also has a lot of thorns. I want to flatten this. I want to flatten the sides and then maybe put a bevel on it as well. I think that would be nice. So we're going to take the piece over to the flat lap and begin shaping it. I've managed to flatten the bottom here, the top, as well as the edges. I also rounded up the edges as well. But unfortunately, it's getting late, so I'm gonna wrap everything up here and I'll see you guys tomorrow. There has been a change of plans. Today, I gotta focus on building a few stands for some art pieces that I have to get sent out. I told the gallery that I was gonna get these done pretty quickly, so I wanna make sure I get this done before the end of the week. And if we have extra time, we'll go back to the outlines and start working on those. 3 main components for the stands. I cut a lot more than what I need, but I figured I can just make extra. Now that we have the material cut, we need to mill in a section right here, so these have a place to sit into. We have the bottom all good, we have the spine ready to go. So now we have to weld these two together. Managed to weld a pretty good amount of these together. I'm not gonna touch it because it's still hot. Unfortunately, I ran out of argon, which means I can't weld anymore. I still have 3 plus this one over there that still needs to get welded. On top of all that, we still have to weld all of these onto those. But because we're out of argon, we can't do any more welding, so we're gonna have to pick up a new tank tomorrow and continue then. This means we're gonna wrap up the metal work for tonight, but we're gonna head to the other side of the studio to continue on the outlines. First thing we're gonna work on is the base. The only things we need to do with this base here is to add a bevel along the entire brim. Then we're gonna put this in the reciprolap. We're gonna bring this up to a 600 grit finish on both sides. Then once this whole thing here is polished, we can move on to the crescent. Got the base beveled all the way around. I'm gonna stop here because I don't have much more time tonight to work on this. The metal work took up most of the day, so I didn't have much time to work on this project. Regardless, I'm gonna wrap everything up here and I'll see you guys tomorrow. We now have all the spines welded to the bottom of the stands. Now we have to weld on these little squares to the very top. We are finished with all the welding for these stands. The square tubing here is going to be what holds the art piece to the stand. At this point, we're gonna sand down the very top so it's flush with the square tube. Then we're gonna sand away all the welds on the back. Once we're done with that, we're then gonna sand down the entire piece and give it a nice finish. We are finally finished with all the stands. This project ended up taking a lot longer because I ended up making a lot more stands than what I thought I was going to. And because it's Friday night, we have to wrap up the vlog. So if you guys enjoyed the video, then be sure to hit that like button. If you want to keep up with all the videos, then be sure to subscribe. And as always, thanks for your time.